All right, so you want the rundown on Brianna Wiest, The Mountain Is You. Is it worth your time?
Well, we're here to help you with that.
That's what we do, right? We took a deep dive into a bunch of sources. There's a blog post from this self-improvement blogger we found.
Mm-hmm.
And of course,
Goodreads.
yeah, Goodreads reviews. We always
got to check Goodreads.
look at Goodreads, and then even some like video instructions for people who are doing book reviews. So we're
Oh, interesting.
so
All together.
we're doing it all together to help you figure out, is this the book for you?
Yeah. Should you spend your time on this one or not? And I'll tell you what, up front, bottom line, this is one of those books that it's hit or miss.
Okay.
Some people loved it. Some people felt like, it was okay.
All right. So
It really depends on what you're looking for.
we need to figure out, like, who is this book really for?
Exactly. So think about someone who really loves to like go deep on the why behind their behavior,
Okay.
but they're not looking for a quick fix.
Mm.
They really enjoy thinking about stuff, like metaphors, and they like to connect the dots between like maybe some stuff that happened in their past and like why they're struggling with something now.
Yeah.
That is The Mountain Is You reader.
Okay, so not like the person who's like, just give me the bullet points,
Yeah, give me the to-do list, like,
the 5 steps.
Yeah, no, this is not that book.
Okay.
This is much more like, if you're familiar with Brené Brown,
Okay, yeah.
with her work on vulnerability, or like Carol Dweck and the growth mindset, it's that kind of thinking.
Okay,
It's about going deep on yourself.
got it.
So not surface level self-help.
So let's actually talk about what she's saying in this book.
Okay.
From what I'm gathering, it's really about self-sabotage.
Yeah.
But the kind of interesting angle she's taking is that it's like a form of self-protection.
Yes.
Like, we're not actually trying to hold ourselves back. It's more that our subconscious is trying to protect us.
Right. It's like it's trying to keep us safe in some way.
Okay, does that sound right?
That's exactly it. So like those pesky habits or behaviors that we often think of as like, oh, I'm self-sabotaging. She says those are actually coping mechanisms that we developed at some point to like protect ourselves from emotional pain.
Okay.
Or things that felt like threats.
Interesting. So it's not just like snap out of it.
No.
It's like, okay, well, there's a reason why you're doing this.
All right, there's a reason behind it.
So how does she even explain that?
So she talks about things like past experiences, right? Like how the things that happen to us kind of shape our beliefs and expectations. And she even gets into like literally how our brains are wired.
Okay.
And how that can lead us to like repeat patterns even when we know we want to change.
So like the brains are working against us.
In a way, yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty insightful. But I am seeing some of the Goodreads reviewers saying it gets a little repetitive.
Yeah.
And kind of lacks like actual solutions.
Right.
I saw one that said there's like the Ruby car of self-help,
Oof, yeah.
implying that it's like more style than substance.
Yeah, and that's something that you'll see with a lot of books that are more philosophical and explorative. They can be really good at raising awareness. Like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was doing that.
Okay.
But then they don't really give you the tools to be like, okay, now what?
Right. Yeah.
So that's where it can fall short.
Okay, so her strength is really in the why, but not so much in the how.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you'll understand why you're doing something.
Okay.
But you might not walk away with a plan for how to change it.
So if you're already familiar with like self-help stuff,
Yeah.
you might not find a ton that's like super new to you.
Yeah, it depends what you're looking for. Some people found her perspective refreshing, even if they kind of already knew the basic ideas.
Okay.
But if you're really looking for like a workbook with exercises or like a step-by-step program, this is not it.
All right, good to know. But the blog review did mention some interesting things like understanding different ways we self-sabotage.
Oh, yeah.
So like there are different coping mechanisms.
Right.
And just recognizing that can be like the first step towards changing.
Exactly. Awareness is huge.
Yeah.
And then there was this other point about public glow-ups that I thought was really interesting.
Oh, yeah? What was that?
So the blogger was saying that Wiest's ideas kind of challenge this whole thing we see on social media,
Okay.
where everyone's like showing their perfect wellness routines and like, being like #blessed.
Right.
And Wiest is saying like, no, true growth is not about getting validation from other people. It's about this internal shift.
So you might be so busy trying to like project an image of success
Exactly.
that you're actually like sabotaging yourself from actually doing it.
You're focused on the wrong mountain. Like maybe the real challenge is not achieving that external goal,
Yeah.
but it's like uncovering and harnessing the strengths that you already have.
I remember the blogger even pulled this quote from the book that said, "You already have everything you need inside of you."
Yes,
Like, that's a big statement.
it is.
Kind of makes you wonder if like all these self-help books are just like
Right.
trying to convince you that you need things that you actually don't.
It makes you think.
Yeah, and that was something that kept coming up in the Goodreads reviews, too.
Yeah, a lot of people had feelings about that line.
Some felt really empowered by it, and
Totally.
some are like, that's way too simple.
Oversimplified. Yeah, it definitely sparked some debate.
So are you saying we should all just, like, ditch the self-help aisle and just trust our gut?
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
But I think it's a good reminder to be critical of the messages that we're consuming, right?
Okay.
Like, are we always looking for validation from outside ourselves? Are we looking for someone else to give us the answers instead of doing the work ourselves?
This is actually making me rethink, like, the whole purpose of self-help, honestly.
Interesting.
I feel like maybe The Mountain is You. It's not about giving you this, like, step-by-step guide. It's
Yeah.
more about, like, prompting you to think about things
Yeah.
and challenging your assumptions about what success even means.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about introspection.
Yeah.
And for some people, that can be incredibly valuable.
Cool.
But for others, it might just feel frustratingly vague.
Yeah.
Like, what about the real world? What about my problems?
Right.
So let's actually get into some more of those specifics. Like, how does she actually structure her argument?
Yeah.
What's the writing like?
Yeah. Is this a page turner or is it going to put you to sleep?
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's dig into all of that in part 2.
Sounds good.
We'll unpack the writing style, how the content is organized, and we'll see how The Mountain is You stacks up against other books you might be familiar with.
So picking up where we left off, let's talk about like how this book is actually written.
Okay.
The blogger we were talking about earlier, they said it reads more like an essay than an actual practical guide.
Okay.
And honestly, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from the Goodreads reviews too.
Yeah. A lot of people were saying they felt like they were being lectured to
Mm-hmm.
and not really guided. They wanted
Yeah.
more like actionable steps
Yeah.
or like even summaries to help them actually use the information.
You want a book that doesn't just like diagnose the problem, but it actually helps you fix it?
Right. Like I don't just want to think about self-sabotage. I
Yeah.
want to know, like, how do I stop doing it?
So it sounds like, based on what we're seeing, The Mountain is You is more about understanding yourself than
Okay.
actually getting like a to-do list of actions.
Okay.
It might be good at getting you to think about your behavior,
Yeah.
but not so much at actually creating a plan.
So this is like for people who like to think about their problems
Yeah,
more than like just wanting to fix them.
I think that's a good way to put it. It's like therapy in a book.
Okay.
And then in terms of the actual writing itself, the blogger described Wiest's style as friendly,
Okay.
but also kind of intense.
Okay.
Like she's not messing around.
All right.
And on Goodreads, some people loved her writing. They loved the example she used.
Okay.
And then other people are like, it was repetitive
Yeah.
and it wasn't actually that deep.
So kind of all over the place.
Yeah, there are very strong opinions on both sides.
Okay. But how is the book actually like organized?
So it's divided into 7 chapters,
Okay.
each one focusing on a different aspect of self-sabotage. So the blogger mentioned things like recognizing your triggers,
Okay.
getting better at understanding your emotions,
Okay.
letting go of old beliefs that are holding you back,
Mm-hmm.
and then designing a future that actually aligns with who you really are.
Oh, that's cool.
There's even a whole chapter on turning self-sabotage into self-mastery.
Okay. That sounds promising.
Yeah,
But I'm still kind of hung up on like the missing summaries and action steps.
I hear you.
It sounds like there's a lot to process,
Yeah.
but without clear instructions on how to actually use it.
And that was a big complaint from a lot of the Goodreads reviewers, too. They really wanted more practical tools, exercises, or even just like bullet points to help them remember the important stuff.
So this is maybe best for people who are already kind of comfortable with that more philosophical, like thinky approach.
Yeah,
But if you really need concrete strategies and like things to do,
right.
it might not be the right fit.
Exactly. It depends on what you're looking for.
Okay, cool.
So let's zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
How does The Mountain is You compare to other popular self-help books out there?
Well, it seems like it touches on the idea of like a growth mindset,
Oh, yeah.
which Carol Dweck talks about a lot,
Mhm.
which is all about like challenging your negative beliefs
Right.
and being more open to like change and challenges.
Totally.
So there's definitely some overlap there.
I see that connection, for sure.
And then the whole focus on understanding your emotions and your triggers.
Mm-hmm.
That's like Brené Brown's whole thing, right?
Exactly.
Encouraging vulnerability and self-compassion as ways to grow.
Good point.
And then when Wiest talks about like designing a future that's aligned with your true self,
Yeah.
that kind of reminds me of the Ikigai concept
Oh, interesting.
from Japan,
Yeah.
which is about like finding purpose and happiness
Mm-hmm.
where your passions, your skills, and your values all come together.
Yeah, like that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Love that connection.
So even though we don't have like specific books to compare it to,
Right.
we can see how the ideas kind of fit in with these other
It's all connected.
popular works. That's helpful.
It gives you some context.
So what about those video instructions we were talking about earlier?
Oh, yeah.
They seem like they were pushing for a more like interactive
Yeah.
and practical approach to reviewing books.
Hands-on.
Yeah, could we use those to get more out of The Mountain Is You?
Absolutely. And I think that's especially helpful given that some people felt like the book was lacking in those areas.
Yeah.
Remember how they emphasized using specific examples and really addressing reader concerns
Okay.
and making those complex ideas more relatable.
So it's not just about like summarizing the book.
Right.
It's about making it personal and
Exactly.
sharing your reaction to it.
It's about the I felt statements.
Okay.
Like, how did this book make you feel?
Right.
That's where the learning really happens.
Okay, so how could we use that with The Mountain Is You?
Well, that reviewer who was frustrated because there weren't very many concrete steps.
Yeah.
Like, what do I actually do?
Yeah.
So instead of waiting for the book to tell you what to do,
Mm-hmm.
you could use it as a starting point to like look inward. Ask yourself, what parts of this really speak to me? What are my mountains?
Okay, so it's more about being active
Yeah,
in your own growth,
exactly. You're taking control.
not just waiting for the book to tell you.
Yes, exactly.
And, that other reviewer who was really into the future self exercises.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, as you're reading, imagine yourself after you've already overcome these self-sabotaging habits.
Yes. Like, what does that future you think and feel and act like? What are they doing?
That's powerful. You're using your future self as a guide
Exactly. It's like a roadmap.
to get where you want to be.
Exactly.
And don't be afraid to get creative right.
Yes.
The video instructions we're talking about comparing complex ideas to things you already understand. So maybe try creating a visual metaphor for your mountain.
Oh, I love that.
What obstacles are there?
Yeah.
What tools do you need to get to the top?
It's like you're turning the book into your own self-discovery adventure.
That's awesome.
I love it.
I'm actually feeling a lot more excited about reading The Mountain Is You now.
Yeah.
It's not about like finding some magic formula. It's
Yeah.
about using this as a tool to explore.
And grow.
And remember, the video instructions also talked about looking at things from different perspectives.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Don't be afraid of the parts that challenge you
Yes.
or even make you mad.
Sometimes those are the parts that teach you the most.
That's true. Sometimes you need to hear a different opinion
Mm-hmm.
to really understand your own.
Totally.
Love it or hate it, The Mountain Is You definitely makes people think.
And talk.
Yeah, it sparks conversation.
Yes, it does. And that's valuable in itself.
Totally. All right, so I think we've officially climbed all the peaks and valleys
I think so.
of this deep dive.
We did it.
We looked at the themes, the
Mhm.
writing, what other readers are saying.
Yeah.
We even got some tips
Practical tips.
for how to get more out of any self-help book.
I agree. We covered a lot of ground.
And if I may, just one final thought to leave you with Wiest's book. Even though people have kind of mixed feelings about it, it really encourages you to look inward,
Yeah.
to find the strength and skills you already have.
You already have it.
So ask yourself this. What mountains in your life are less about getting new things and more about using what you already have inside?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's something to think about. And with that, we'll let you consider your own personal mountains.
Happy climbing.
Until next time, happy reading.